Hello, this is my reflection for Module 7's topic, which is relationship and conflict. When it came to my open-ended question, it was essentially asking about culture shocks and how they could affect you and others. And what I've learned from various responses is that it varies, of course, when it comes to intercultural relationships and intercultural conflicts. And there are 3 articles that I want to focus on that are pertaining to this topic of this week's module. The first article is by Marjana Gunkel, Christopher Schlegel, and Voss Taras. It is from ScienceDirect.com, and the article is entitled Cultural Values, Emotional Intelligence, and Conflict Handling Styles, a Global Study. The first section of this article is entitled Abstract, and the beginning of it, the quote I want to focus on, is this. While previous research has identified cultural values and emotional intelligence as central determinants or conflict handling styles, little is known about the mechanism through which cultural values impact individuals' preference for specific contact handling styles. I think to summarize this quote from this article is that it simply says that the origin of these impacts are unknown. However, it can vary. So I think that's what this quote is saying. At least that's what I interpret this quote as to be saying. The second article I want to focus on is by Michelle LeBaron and is entitled Culture and Conflict. You can find it on beyondintractability.org. And this quote that I want to focus on is in the section entitled How Cultures Work. And the quote reads as follows. Cultural messages shape our understandings of relationships and how to deal with the conflict and harmony that are always present wherever 2 or more people come together. I think when it comes to this quote, it is simply saying that how communication works within cultures, that it can help build a sense of understanding, mutual understanding, and it's also a healthy, cultural messages can be a healthy way of resolving conflicts and having a peaceful yet civil discourse, and it can also bring people together as a community. That's how I interpret this quote from this article. And the final article that I want to focus on is from Medium.com. It is by Dr. Phyllis Morrow, and it is entitled Navigating Cultural Differences in Personal Relationships, Embracing Diversity. And the section that I want to focus on is Challenges of Navigating Differences in Personal Relationships. It says, essentially, there's steps to this on how to navigate the differences. And the first one is communication styles, which means that different cultures have varying communication norms. Directness, use of humor, and body language can also carry different meanings across cultures, potentially leading to misunderstandings. The second factor is social norms and etiquette. These include gestures, customs, and social norms that can vary significantly from one culture to another. What is considered polite in one culture may be perceived as offensive in another. The third factor is family dynamics, which means the role of family and extended family and personal relationships can vary significantly. Balancing individual needs and familial obligations can be complex when cultural expectations diverge. The fourth factor is gender roles, which means cultural attitudes towards gender roles and relationships can influence partnership expectations, often leading to disparities in decision-making and responsibilities. And the fifth and final factor when it comes to navigating differences in personal relationships is values and beliefs, which means core values and beliefs, including religious and ethical perspectives, can differ significantly. Respecting these differences while maintaining one's convictions can be challenging. I think to summarize all of this is that when it comes to these factors, especially values and beliefs and social norms and etiquette, it can vary from individual to individual and culture to culture. Like, for example, like, if you, in some cultures, like, if you hold the peace sign, in some cultures, it can be considered offensive, like flipping the bird or giving someone the finger, per se, like using your middle finger against someone, for example, is offensive in pretty much all cultures because it's obscene. And when it comes to gender roles, I think it depends on where you're from and your culture. Like, for example, like, in some countries, females, like girls, are not allowed to go to school, especially in countries in the Middle East. And when it comes to, like, family dynamics, like, there's some cultures where the patriarch is the head of the household, and some cultures where the matriarch is the head of the household. And when it comes to values and beliefs, I think this can vary depending on the individual. And when it comes to communication styles, it varies. Like, for example, like cursing, like in Japanese, like, for example, and let's say Japanese is very frowned upon. In most cultures, swearing is frowned upon, especially in cultures that are more traditionalist or conservative in a way, which, by the way, I think the word conservative has a misconception, which conservative doesn't necessarily have to always do with politics. It can also do with values and beliefs. So this is my reflection based on this week's topic of relationship and conflict. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.